Are you serious? Are you serious? China has invaded India, and nobody, I mean literally nobody in the national media, the lamestream media of America, nobody is covering it. They're still there. I brought it up about a week ago that they had invaded into Indian territory. They're still there, and more are coming. What's going on? I've got some information here. Let me read it to you. So get a cup of coffee. There's a couple stories here we want to touch on. First of all, I want to thank Hadassah for getting this to me. Chinese incursion or invasion leaves India on the verge of a crisis. Reports coming out of New Delhi, India, is the platoon of Chinese soldiers that slipped across the boundary over the borders into India in the middle of the night last week. According to Indian officials, they were ferried across the bitterly cold moonscape in Chinese army vehicles, then got out to traverse a dry creek bed with a helicopter hovering overhead for protection. They finally reached their destination and pitched a tent in the barren Dispang Valley, there just across the border in India, a symbolic claim of sovereign deep territory inside the Indian-held nation. So stealthy was the operation that India did not discover the excursion until a day later, according to Indian officials. Now, China denies any excursion, but Indian officials say that for 2 weeks, the soldiers have refused, right? We're right on the verge of 2 weeks now. The soldiers have refused to move back over the so-called line of actual control that divides Indian ruled territory from Chinese-run land, leaving the government on the verge of a crisis with its powerful northeastern neighbor, China. India officials fear that if they react with force, that this could escalate into a battle with the powerful People's Liberation Army. But doing nothing would leave the Chinese outposts deep in the territory of India that it has ruled since its independence. So, quote, if they come 19 kilometers into India, that's how deep they are. They didn't just cross barely over the border in some kind of mountainous terrain and don't know where the border's at. They're 19 kilometers inside of India for 2 weeks, pitching a tent, knowing they're there. It's not a minor LAC violation when you're 19 kilometers in somebody's sovereign country. It is a deliberate military operation. And even as India protests, more tents are coming. More soldiers are arriving. This is getting very... what is up with this? What is China doing? What's going on in Asia? China locked on radars on Japanese warships in the Yellow Sea. China has moved troops along the North Korean border. China may have brought down a couple American drones. China has threatened the Philippines to surrender immediately some of their islands that are in dispute. China has invaded India and has set up a platoon of soldiers. And last week when I reported on this, India sent a platoon of soldiers down there and set up tent across from them and stared at them. There's been no engagement. There's been no attempt of trying to evict them from the property. So what is China doing? And remember the 12 prophecies that the Lord gave us on New Year's Eve coming into this year. 12 prophecies for this year. One of them was there would be unrest in Asia. Well, we already know what Kim Jong-un has done the whole year. Ever since that prophecy came forward, he's done nothing but create havoc and cause headaches in the minds of the free world with his propaganda videos threatening to blow up America, blow up the White House, blow up the Capitol, fire rockets into New York City, blow up American soldiers. I mean, what? Are you serious? What are you doing, Kim Jong-un? But now what is China doing? Everybody just calm down. But let me tell you, we got more breaking news coming out of North Korea now. What we have here, and I want to thank Nick of New York and Troy, North Korea this morning has sentenced an American to 15 years hard labor. What? You can't do that. For what? Well, a Korean American was detained for 6 months in North Korea and has now been sentenced to 15 years hard labor for what they call hostile acts against the state of North Korea, according to the North Korean media. A move that could trigger a visit by a high-profile American if history is any guide. Now, Kenneth Bay, a Washington state man described by friends as a devout Christian. Oh, okay. Oh, he's a Christian. Okay, now we're starting to... Oh, it's a spiritual thing again. Let's just highlight that. Described by friends as a devout Christian. He's also a tour operator. Is at least the 6th American detained in North Korea since 2009. The others eventually were deported or released without serving out their terms. Some after trips to North Korea by prominent Americans such as U.S. Presidents Bill Clinton and U.S. President Jimmy Carter. Now, with already the U.S. and North Korea ties worsening since the long-range rocket launch more than a year ago, North Korea is fishing for another such meeting, and according to them, the head of the World Institute for North Korean Studies think tank in South Korea says this is another ploy. Now, North Korea is using Kenneth Bay as bait to make such a visit happen. An American bigwig visiting North Korea would also burnish Kim Jong-un's leadership profile. Kim took power from his father, Kim Jong-il, when he died back in December of 2011. Now, the authoritarian country has faced increasing criticism over its nuclear weapons ambitions and disarmament talks, including the Koreans, the United States, Japan, China, and Russia, which fell apart back in 2009. Several rounds of UN sanctions have not encouraged the North to give up its small cache of nuclear devices, which North Korea says must not only keep but expand to protect itself from the hostile Washington, D.C. So, this situation once again escalates. We got a Christian now. So let me see if I got this right. We've got a American Christian sentenced to 15 years hard labor in North Korea, and we have an American pastor sentenced. First of all, they wanted to hang him, and now he's rotting in a horrific prison in Iran. 2 American Christians dangling in front of the Obama administration. And we're still waiting, Mr. President. We're still waiting on what your response will be. I know what your response was for Planned Parenthood, to endorse them. And I know how quickly you called to congratulate Jason Collins on coming out of the closet as the first gay male athlete in America. But when are you going to pick up the phone and get our people free? I'm Pastor Paul Begley. We're living in a very dangerous world. Continue to watch Bible prophecy, because if you watch Asia and the connections with the Middle East, remember in my book, Mark of the Beast, RFID, it's the communist nations that team up with radical Islamist nations to create the New World Order, which will have an Antichrist and a false prophet, which comes out of radical Islam. And again, the ties continue to come together. The Boston bombing, again, Russians coming from communistic backgrounds mixed in with radical Islam. It's continuing to happen. So please, give your life to Jesus Christ. We're in the last days.